Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Next Empowered Teams podcast. Say hello, guys. All right,
Hello.
off your keyboards, people. And today's subject is going to be about AI Unleashed. Is the title that everybody's decided to go for. But in many ways, what we're going to be talking about is the impact of generative AI across businesses, across the entertainment industry, the human-centric aspects, the fear and worry that my jobs are going to get replaced, the incredible changes it's going to actually bring to some of the practices, both within the film industry, within the gaming industry, and importantly for businesses, and the sheer problem of understanding it when even the experts can't agree on this. So, given that I've given the problematic, I'd like to welcome the team of Phil, of Nick, of Jez, and Eric, who you haven't seen in a while, is joining us because it's a very geek topic as well this morning. So, who would like to kick it off?
I'll briefly do an intro from my recent experience of what I would describe as the massive hype cycle that was generative AI, which was a kind of a couple of years ago, I guess, when it came into everyone's kind of consciousness because ChatGPT came out.
Yeah.
And then in the organization I was working for at that time, the C-suite and the board suddenly had heard of AI and sort of became overnight wannabe experts that AI was going to solve the problems of their business. And I always remember I was asked to write a report on how we could use AI to solve problems within the business. And this is from a CDO who sat there for the last 3 years trying to get the basics of data literacy nailed. And suddenly they wanted to leap into solving problems with AI. So it was kind of quite interesting that it was sort of sold as this silver bullet that would solve all of your business problems, which it ain't. And I think that is one of the biggest problems. I think what we'll come on to within this debate is really understanding what yes AI can do and know what AI can't do. And there is a lot of great stuff that AI can do, but you need to understand what it is actually doing. Because if you don't, you can cause huge problems within your business and your organization by, like, solely reliant on AI to do aspects of your job and your organization. I would argue is a red herring at this stage, open to debate amongst my colleagues.
I find this conversation really interesting, and I think it goes back to a couple of things that were said before we started, right? Like, it, what do you want to use it for? And actually, do you know what it's capable of, right? I'm not an expert in this topic at all. What I do know is that I hear of some great things where we can speed up process, we can use it for automation, we can create content, we can be more efficient as a business. But until I've used it quite a bit and until I really take a step back and go, right, let's have a proper look at where I think there could be improvements in the company. And then I'll go to Nick and go, these are the things which I think could be speeded up. Could we do something with this? And have a proper conversation about where are the opportunities to use AI based on the capability that you know, and then go, okay, well, now we'll go and have a look. And maybe we'll do some testing on some small bits to see if it's actually working. Like, I feel like everybody's just gone, like you said, Phil. It's come out, oh, wow, look at all this stuff that we can do. And before we know it, I think it's causing mass confusion. And also it's creating content, obviously with bias, and there is creating content which is can be focused on compliance, which I think is absolute car crash right now, because people that are responsible for, well, anybody can use it, that's the thing, and therefore they can create documents, policies, processes, procedures for stuff without perhaps having the knowledge as a person or the capability from a business perspective to be able to execute what it's created. And that, for me, is dangerous. So what's the starting point? Nick's going to have a really big answer for this one. I know he is.
I'm trying to keep quiet. No, for me,
You did really well there. Your listening skills are brilliant at the moment. Yeah.
Well, I've been using this business simulation to listen to others and not take control too often, you know. So I think you're right. It's the hype. Look, I think we need to all realise that AI and its current capabilities, whether that be generative or other uses of AI, is nowhere near what it will get to in the next few years. And there will be another evolution and change that will really bring out the power of the compute that's underneath, right? I think that what we have today is a glorified version of what we've had for the last 10, 15, 20 years, right? It's a generative AI has been out for years, right? It is only that it got to the point where how can we improve this model? Oh, 1 minute we need mass adoption and we need mass users using it so we can improve it and improve its accuracy, and therefore we increase the volume, right? And the only way to do that is release it to the public. And that's what's happened, right? It's a classic data science experiment of, oh, we've done it a test data over here of 100 records. Oh, this is all good. We've got 99.99% accuracy. Oh, let's release it to 1 billion records.
Yeah.
The accuracy we get there, right?
Nick, I love that. I completely. I wonder whether I always wondered whether is it Sam Altman who was ChatGPT? I can't remember who it was now. Whether they actually thought that the take up of it would be like it is now, because as you say, Nick, it was just like, oh, this is a mass data science project, so let's go and get it validated by putting it out there, and suddenly 100 billion users or whatever it is.
But that's the key point, right? It is that AI is a subset of data science. Well, data science is a subset of AI, whichever way around you want to put it. Is of the computer science and computer intelligence, right? AI is a subset of that. Generative AI is an even smaller subset of that. And only one type of model, right? Essentially, a large language model. So we need to remember that this hype that's come out and this chaos we're thinking, this silver bullet idea we've got, is just one way or one part of what could help your business when you look at the opportunities of AI, and actually probably isn't ready even for business consumption yet. It's probably the concepts you need to look at and say, well, how can we use this concept in our business with the right skills, the right tools, the right people, the right processes?
Just to jump off of what you were saying there, I think both in what you're describing, Nick, and one thing specifically that Jez said is that the creators of these systems actually don't understand what's happening. They kind of do, but to a certain extent, they're also in this situation where they're just sort of going out there and experimenting and playing around with things and seeing where it'll go. And we're right now reaching the point where we have, for the first time, some relatively obvious uses of these systems, right?
Yeah.
Because of that experimentation, because of that mass adoption, we're sort of honing in on, oh, wait, it's actually really good at doing this. What's going to happen over the next few years is that we're going to start exploring more complex, more involved uses of generative AI and AI in general. And we can't really predict that yet. There's, the experts, the actual scientists working on the really, really complex stuff have a vague idea. It's still kind of messy.
Yeah, as I say, I'll give a really, really good example of how that works. An experiment that all the viewers and listeners can do, right? It's so first of all, Gen AI or generative AI is what's considered a narrow AI. So it's been created to do a specific task, one task and one task only. It is either to write text, create a picture, or do this one thing. So it's only there for one specific task, and therefore it's considered what's called a narrow AI because it's just been built for that specific thing. And if you try and tell it to do something else, it won't do it. The second part is what's called limited memory AI. So limited memory AI means that it's actually using memory to perform that task at that time. it has no concept of memory beyond the query that you're, or the topic conversation you're having. And what you can do is you can go to Gen AI, and particularly some of the image builders, right? And I could give one prompt and I could say, imagine, create me a picture of, five people on a podcast about Gen AI, and it would generate me 4 particular images. And then I could come back later on in the later on in the day, or even probably next few minutes later on a new topic, and say, create me a picture of 5 guys watching a podcast. The 4 images selections it gives me on both times will be completely different. There'll be elements that are the same, but it won't give me the exact same 4 images because it has no memory of its previous responses. It has no memory of long term. It doesn't learn from everyone else's prompts to go, oh, 1 minute, by the way, when Eric asked me for a picture of 5 people, he wanted to make them younger, to make them older, more excited. You see these memes of people going, make them more excited. It won't look at that and go, oh, by the way, when everyone's asked this before, they've always wanted it more excited. Therefore, our first one's going to be number 3 level of excitement. Yeah, it has limited memory. Its memory is only there to solve the task that you've asked it to do at that time. So when we talk about generative AI, it's the experts say it's not real AI yet.
But can I throw a spanner in the works there? All right, because I'm busy, having been well educated on my Google e-learning module on generative AI, right, of which even Phil's got discussions on. But I think while what you're saying is correct, I think one of the things that they're looking towards, which is kind of what Eric said, is to creating a foundational model.
Yeah.
And in that foundational model, so you're right okay, so I think the world is an experiment at the moment, right? So you've got text to image, text to text, text to video, text to 3D. Now, if I'm getting this right, once you put that into a foundational model, right, where there is memory, where there is a data set and it's building it, doesn't that change the game a little bit, or did I get that wrong?
You're still years away, well, a few years away from that. This is what I mean. They're accelerating experiments,
but isn't that yes, I know we're years away, but isn't that? I mean, just say one of the things as game producers we got involved in was
it's fine, Toby. If you're an experiment,
was the VR hype,
yeah,
right? And that was massive, along with the metaverse and all the rest of that stuff. We are very hype averse in that, we built 3D. God, we built our whole game with VR headsets and all the rest of it, and the amount of money that's going to explode into this industry, and this is what it's going to be, and the metaverse is going to be like that. By the time we got to the metaverse, we were like, well, we were there in Second Life about 10 years ago. It ain't going to happen. It's already been and done. This is just marketing. So I think my question to you is Nick, is what's happening in a few years? Is it just like the VR hype? Is it just hyping so you get consultants in, you start doing work, but actually the promised land doesn't really exist at all?
No, I think AI is here to stay in all forms, and it will change the world, right? And it's out the box. There's nothing we can do about that. I think it's quite interesting. You said about it's an experiment and doing this. If it's foundation, or if the foundation isn't built, and if it's experimental, are you happy for your bank to send out to use you as an experiment and basically send out and do all your finances off the back of something that hardly anyone understands and knows and can get right, and it produces a different answer every time? And do your investments, or write your mortgage contracts, write your deeds. It's this kind of stuff that it's like it needs to be the right level.
Just to add to that, there's an apocryphal story, and I can't remember quite what the dog breed was, so I'll go with one that I've just made up because it's funny. So someone asked, "Can you draw?" There's a breed of dog, like one of these cross pollination of dogs called a cockapoo.
Mm-hmm.
So someone went in and said, "Can you, generate me a picture of a cockapoo?" Right? But of course, no one had trained the language model on what a cockapoo looks like. So you can imagine what it thought. It took cock and it took poo, and you can imagine what it tried to then make as an image coming out of it. Because actually the language model had never come
No,
across
but
something like
if
that.
building
So
on
it's
what
kind
you,
of
yeah,
it's
I know, but
good to
building on what you,
illustrate sorry, Toby, it's good to
yeah,
illustrate in a way, generative AI can be in and of itself quite stupid because it's only it's only as clever as the input that it's got, and then the challenge is to be skilled enough to understand and interpret what's produced at the other end. Whether what you so you still this idea that you could run your bit, in my view, you could run your business solely on the back of outputs from AI current on generative is really cloud cuckoo land, because you really need someone that's going to be in there to make sure you haven't made the cockapoo error within whatever you are trying to do. So,
Phil,
It's an interesting point. Go on, Jez.
as a data person who's spent pretty much all of their career cleaning up data, looking at
yeah,
data quality, getting rid of duplicate data, and now and no one's really nailed that part yet. And now we've got a tool that's creating data at a super accelerated speed with ease.
yeah.
What are your feelings on that, right? So if you're in the middle of a transformation and you're just about getting your shit sorted, you really feel like you've got some governance, you feel like your data quality is in better shape, 50% better than what it was 5 years ago, and all of a sudden, you start using Gen AI and AI in your business to create more data. What are your feelings on that?
My feelings on that are very strong, Jez. I think this is one of this.
Well, I
So
can't. I mean, I'm like, it's just throwing petrol on the fire, isn't it?
no, exactly. So I think there's two parts to that answer. Actually, I think that because one of I was in the, we're all familiar with this. So like my job, day in day out, was trying to improve the quality of the data that was used within the organisation, right?
Right.
And then suddenly you would then use generative AI to use the same poor data to then go and answer queries and problems within the business.
Well, that's one
So the old
aspect, right?
analogy, shit in, shit out. Yeah, that's one aspect. The other aspect is that if you're using generative AI and you're consuming on the in an open generative model, yeah, so ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever like that, as a
Using other
as a
people's
head of
shit.
yeah, exactly. You're consuming other people's shit without any governance or controls over the top of that. There's
Right.
someone, is sending out a report to a shareholder, or I was in the pensions industry, so a trustee, or a financial transaction to a trader. If they've got that off generative AI, I've got no idea what has been said. And I've got no audit trail then either for actually going, well, where did that information, that data come from? And it does highlight a big problem, because I can see real benefits around generative AI solving the poor data problem, because you can use it in and of itself to then do pattern recognition and stuff. So you can use it to clean up your own poor data. So it's got a role, which is what I think at the top of this conversation was about. You need to understand what problem are you trying to solve, and then whether AI can help you to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Not
Not that
find how
we've
you can
got
get in your
AI,
business. Yeah.
yeah, not that we've got AI. So let's try and search for a solution we can place AI over somewhere around the business. I think that's the problem. I had lots of conversations about this. Oh, the lawyers can start using it. No, they can't without someone. They can use it to kind of brief out a letter, but someone's got to sign it off. Someone's got to make sure it's factually correct before you do it. Oh, marketing can use it, and you're like, right, okay. So who's the copyright on all of the information that you're going to send out there? Yeah,
Yeah.
who's gonna actually back that up? If we make an error and we send that out, are we going to get sued for that? I'd start asking all these questions in board level meetings. Oh, Phil, you're always a doomsayer when it comes to
no,
this.
but I think Phil, it's kind of just one of the things that I saw today is okay. So as we start to sort of do, I mean, if you start working into the world of medicine, all right, and you start saying that we're going to start using generative AI to look and diagnose and make prescriptions, all right, and come up with solutions for patients or for organizations within this area, and you start going into more risky businesses, for example, like policing, as we start to go into that, or um, the terrifying thing for me is I have a friend who works in air traffic control. Oh, good God, that's an area that's computer based. But what happens when this starts to? 'Cause so my understanding of what AI is the idea is it it is moving into the area where humans typically make decisions.
Maybe can I
And the
just
minute,
sort of
yeah, go for it.
just go and Joe, and the last can come back in if I've got this wrong. So my interpretation, if we take your medical model, for instance, that as you said, in my view, ChatGPT or something like that could be really amazing for a doctor that wants to go, look up what kind of medicines do you need for curing acne, right? And you can go on there and it will come up and tell you these are the types of things that people have used. Yeah. Then it's down to the GP's discretion to then decide on what treatment what kind of cream or whatever to dispense. Yeah. But if you're asking, say, Phil's just come in, he told me these symptoms here. Yeah, you put it into GP, and then it comes out and says Phil now has type 2 diabetes, and you go and treat it. Right? That is where this is the danger that you at the moment we're not in a position. Or have I frozen? We all frozen? Was that
Nope.
me?
No,
Oh, okay. Sorry, that's just me. We're not in the position at the moment where it's intelligent enough to think for itself, to do self-diagnosis for someone. I think that's the journey we'll be going on, and this is where we need to be quite clear on what do you mean by using AI. So we are. I think the next that Elon Musk, I think it is, has described AI 2.0 is its ability to think for itself, its ability then to come out and start to make independent of human, if you like, that intervention in it. It's thinking for itself, and then and I think we're some way getting closer, but I think we're some way off that at the moment. And I think this is one of the problems. Was that,
To
I
take
think I was
that
clear on that. I think,
back a
guys, yeah.
minute, the Toby said that before when we were having a chat before the session about if it can learn, it can do this. Large language models, those ChatGPT, the examples of those AI, they are not learning, right? All they are doing is using a vast volume of information to second guess. Yeah, to second guess what the next word could be based on the previous words and the words that you've used out of a whole pool of words.
Is that true, Nick?
When,
So does that mean there's no validation within a large language model to
of course,
say
there's
that
validation
actually
circles,
what you're
right?
thinking is right and is correct, and because based on reference points from here, and I'm happy with that, so there's the answer. So does it
There
get
is validation of things from that, right? But it's not. It doesn't necessarily validate its answer before it gives it to you, right? And
Right.
again, there's a couple of experiments you can do as a person. It's got no. You could say so. I think I don't know if I've done this in one of the podcasts, but I've certainly said it in some of our sessions before. I've used it before. I was creating an escape room as a kind of physical game for one of our clients, and one of it was doing a word search, right? And in the word, I wanted some words, so I needed a word that fitted in a box of 5 letters or something. It was about smart cities. I said, "Can you give me a list of 10 words related to smart cities where the second letter is Y and it's 5 characters long?" Brilliant. Yeah, of course I can. Of those 10 words it gave me, only one of them had Y as the second character.
Why?
Right? Huh? Because
Why?
it had no, because it didn't know the answer. It just gave me what it thought the answer was.
Yeah.
It's not got that validation rules in there, right? A second test you can do yourself is whenever you ask it a question, ask it, where did you source this information from? I can bet you that 99% of the time the answer will be, I didn't source it from anywhere. I used a combination of all these things. If you want to go and source information, go to these are some useful places you can source the information from. Right? Unless you specifically ask it to give you Harvard-style quote and evidence, it will not source direct information. So it doesn't revalidate itself.
Isn't it also true that if you ask it for something illegal, it will say it can't give it to you. But if you ask it not
They
to give you
fixed that
things,
problem. they
have
they
they?
did fix that problem, yes. So you used to be able to ask it for like a list of sites you can get illegal movies from, and it would tell you it's illegal and it can't do that. And then it'll go, and then you say, well, how do I avoid those? And it used to go, oh, well, here's the sites to avoid, and give you the list of sites. They fixed that problem. But my point is that it's not necessarily, it is a model that validates and uses a lot of data science to work out the answer, right? But it's not necessarily learning. If you look at something like image detection, or things like behavior analysis using CCTV cameras and stuff like that, that is learning, right? It's using a unsupervised model in itself to say, oh, do you know what? I think this is an apple. Is it an apple? Oh,
Right,
no,
right.
these are all apples and they're not. So
Let me put my hand up, right?
go
Because
on.
now I'm a black belt in generative AI. Is you just use the word unsupervised and therefore supervised with regards
Yeah.
to tags or not tags, and that's as soon as you put yourself up right into deep stuff there, then could you, if it's using unsupervised, which means it's using raw data.
So to keep it really simple, supervised
What I just
learning.
did.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So for supervised learning, we're telling it the answer, right? So it's like a kid coming to us and going, "Is this an apple?" And we go, "Yes, well done, it's an apple. Well
Yeah.
done, go away. Here's the sweet." Yeah, and then they come up and they give us a pear and say, "Is this an apple?" We say, "No, that's not an apple. So I'm going to take one of your sweets away." Yeah. You give it the answers. You say, "Look, these are all apples. Go and
But you're
find the ones that
trained,
look the
but
same."
that's the training
You're
model.
training it, so that's a
Right.
supervised model,
Right.
right?
And then when we talk about unsupervised, but from what I'm understanding, right? Because I know I think it's fair enough that you kind of got a broad agreement. Actually, before I go into this, I think there's a point, Eric. One of the reasons, well, we're talking about the business area here, and we're in the deep dive on that. One of the areas for the game industry, which is the biggest entertainment industry on the planet. All right, Eric, do you want to talk about how the impact of generative AI in terms of the vast studios of developers out there and the impact?
I'm actually gonna, if it's okay, I'm gonna take that to a broader level, and then we can narrow it down to gaming. I think that
You can go for it.
what you have to understand here, and this is something that's kind of hard to wrap your head around, is that generative AI is not creative in the sense that we think of it as humans. It is creative in the sense that once it's been taught based off of hundreds of thousands of millions of artworks, bits of music, 3D assets, sentences, etc., it basically can, through a very abstract process, use those as sources of inspiration, right? So what's happening is creative industries at large are now faced with a situation where the basic task of taking inspiration from existing content and creating something new out of it, it's finished. AI is going to do that better and faster than humans. It's almost there in some cases. It's going to be there within a couple of years in other cases. A good example of that is recently there's a platform called Udio that just released that is a music creation AI. So it's generative AI that's been trained on every music you can imagine. They haven't disclosed their sources, but based on analysis of what it's spitting out, basically it's listened to everything. And you can ask it with a text prompt to do anything, and it is 95% good. You can create an actually good sounding, coherent piece of music in any genre of any style. But the thing is, most industries don't understand that yet. Most people in these industries don't understand that yet, and it's sort of going to be a shock. So what we're going to get is the narrow creative fields. So, the ones that do one thing. Music is audio, boom, that's narrow. Visual art is visual, that's one thing, are going to come first. And once that happens, you're going to get to a point where all of these things are going to start to be able, and we were talking about foundational models, you're going to start to use various models bring them together, and you're going to reach a level of richness and complexity which is going to be completely crazy. So, we had the first examples of that are coming where people are creating video. Video is very complex because it's not just creating one image, you're creating an image and then adding the notion of motion, persistence, the way things move in space. So that's a very, very, you're having to build multiple models of training and bring them together for it to make any sense visually. And what's going to happen is in the field of video games, which tend to use quite a few, so there's audio, there's visual, there's code, there's environments, so 3D design, there's going to be game design, which is a separate field, there's going to be a player interaction, there's going to be, you have all these different pieces coming together. Once you get to that point, instead of it being I want to say dumb machine that's just recreating based off of inspiration, the fact that you're combining all these different assets, you're going to enter a system where, to a certain extent, AIs are likely to start becoming what we would as humans consider creative, because you're going to have so many different models working together to create one final element, one final asset, that it's likely to be something way more interesting and rich and complex than what we expect current AIs to be able to do. Now, to get there, it's going to be a relatively complex.
No, but can I pull from that? Because that actually was the point that I stopped at, was to say I think that you've done a pretty good job of unraveling the hype. All right. So we've unraveled the hype, and we can also see the stress, and we can also see the traction of the hype. But we can also see the future direction that was going, and that I think that Eric, well, you've all set that up, but I think Eric finished it off there in terms, because it's my belief, and that the games world will lead the development of where this takes place across all industries, because it's a very powerful marketplace. It's probably one of the most powerful marketplaces with a pull on the planet, right? Because of all of those multiple aspects which are considered verticals at the moment, it has to bring together to produce a game which, can defeat the revenue power of a Hollywood movie. So I throw back the question to you guys who are saying it's naysayers. It's not now, but it's going to be. What's the implication from the games world to the business world in terms of what the way I sort of pitch?
We know every day now that change happens quickly, right? You only have to look at some of the blockbusters of this world to know plan and that have died,
Kodak.
To see, Kodak, to see how quickly the world is changing and how your business needs to accept this stuff and look at where can it support. I think you come full circle to Jez's point, is that at the moment we have this chaos of we can't go to a meeting about data without someone mentioning AI. It's like painstaking, right? It's like you can't even tell me how many customers you've got, yet you want to send AI content out to them. Like, it's really that bad. So it's creating this chaos, and a lot of that is driven by hype and by the board and pushing down. Yes, go and see how can your business use AI. I think don't, like Phil said, don't look for the superficial features that the software vendor that you buy from is going to say, oh, hey, we've added AI and this is what it does. We looked at it for our staffing business. We've our CRM provider, they're built off Dynamics. They've now got the use of Copilot. Obviously others are available, but they're like, oh yeah, we've got an AI tool which will self-write job adverts. You give it the job description, and for your staffing team, we'll write an advert instantly, and it'll have all the features of a good advert, right? And then you start to unpick that, and you're like, okay, yes, it can write a job advert, but now my job advert looks exactly the same as every single person on your system. Every single one who uses your CRM, the job advert looks exactly the same. There's nothing of, we can obviously give it the company name and it can start pulling information from that. Lots of recruiters don't want to give the company name, so you can't give it the company name because it accidentally puts it in there, and also it doesn't follow the format that we want to follow. As a business, we have a certain way we want to present ourselves, and it doesn't follow it. So we've had to say, do you know what? We won't use your one. We're going to have to create our own, right? And then when we create our own, you end up giving it so many prompts to get it the way you want it to get to, that you spent loads of time and effort doing that anyway, right? Yes, it's still an advantageous approach, but I just think there's superficial AI features that people are adding, like Phil said, for the sake of it. Let's find something you can solve with. I think it's best to sit down and go, how will our business improve? What have we got if we do this? I'm a strong believer at the naissance is human in the loop. Use AI to direct you, to start things off, to speed things up, and to improve the human life, the human operations. And have AI, I mean, we talk about in the game, right? Have AI as another member of your team.
Can I
Hey,
pull a? Can
Mr.
I pull
AI,
a?
can you go and research
No,
this? Or hey,
can I
Mr.
pull
AI
a?
or Mrs. AI, can you go and research, kind of summarize
Because
this? Sorry, go on.
because no. It's exciting what you're saying, because I think that the human in the loop is interesting, because when we talk about the different industries that we've got out there, one of the biggest industries and fastest growing industries is robotics, right? And in robotics, you have a number of things, autonomous vehicles, for example, but right up to military vehicles, and to now, the trials of autonomous uh, police dogs that are robots that are being used in various American cities. In Korea, they're using robots with AI features as prison guards. They're testing it, so that you no longer have to have prison guards. There's absolute conversations about some form of robotics for policing, for solving manpower problems. So, if on the one hand you're talking about that we've got really bad quality data, that yes, we can use it to fix that, but here we're talking about decisions being made in the public sphere.
Yeah.
Right?
I
By
think that
robots with data.
Go on, Jez. Sorry.
And to sort of finish off, there is a massive campaign building in the UN for robotics to be supervised, right?
you're
As
still
people get killed.
you're, as far as I'm aware, though, the thing about that is that you're still having to say, you use your guard dog analogy, right?
No, but then
You're
the
still,
human in the loop is under discussion.
but you're still having to train. So I'll just make this point. So you're still having to train that dog, right? It's got to be trained on a model. And where you suddenly get into are issues around trust and ethics, right? So how does the robot dog know when to fight the bad guy or girl, right? You somewhere it's got to be trained. It has at the moment, and that. So, are you going to say that you are just going to leave that to its own? You're going to trust that the dog somehow knows to differentiate between a civilian running away and a prisoner running away, right? So
Is it wearing an
that
orange
is
jumpsuit?
yeah, no,
Okay.
exactly. So
Yeah,
you
but
end up getting into
all
and
respect, you're mocking it right now. But right now, right, this is of such a major topic. I think the
I'm not.
professor worldwide who's one of the
Toby,
leaders from
let me just
Leeds.
say on to actually come on your side for a minute. Self-driving cars. The self-driving cars out there can drive better than any driver in the world, right? That if you
Yeah.
if you took out all of the cars in the world and put in self-driving cars, we would have a much safer roads, much safer environment.
Yeah, they're much
right?
safer. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. The difference is that yes, that industry is vastly ahead, and yes, there's lots of industries that will go that way, right? But they've got a lot of data, a lot of equipment, a lot of tech, and they're very far. What we're really talking about, not every business is a Google, right? Not every business can develop a self-driving car. The majority of everyday businesses don't have control of the data, don't have massive amounts of millions to spend on tech, and so you've got to think it in two parts. But if you face it with a scenario it's never faced before, I don't know, let's say on a particular day in a particular junction, the angle of the sun hits off of someone's watch as they're walking along, and it changes and the light doesn't look red anymore, it now looks amber. If the car has never dealt with that scenario before, how does it decide what to do? Right, and I think there's unknowns all the time, and until we get an AI that can learn from previous mistakes, or us accept that AI can make mistakes, we can't
I
progress.
think this is, yeah, and I think this is the and this has always been here. This has always been the problem, is the ethical dilemma of, so you take Amazon for at the moment, you know, they're looking at how can they do parcel deliveries with a drone, yeah. So you imagine that the drone's flying over Brighton, to it's going to go and deliver me a fridge in my front garden, yeah, and then the drone
Really big drone.
malfunctions whilst well, they can do them at the moment. You
Yeah.
know, the ability. This is the problem.
We
Isn't
drop
it? Technology.
payloads over the world, can't we?
Yeah, it's
So
not the tech. It's not the tech that's the problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in this scenario, it's going along and it's malfunctioned, right? And the only way it knows, what do I do about my fridge that's dangling in the air? Do I drop it on a car? Do I drop it on a passenger? Do I drop it on a? Do you know what I mean? It's like you end up with this ethical question all of the time, and someone's got to make that decision making for it. And you always, so these kind of guardrails, because unless you're going to say we'll leave it to the whatever to make the decision making it for itself, you've got to then
then who's
build
paying
in,
the
because
damage?
at the because at the moment it's not safe, because I could have my and I may if I go on some philosophical loop here, but I'll carry on until you can tell me to shut up, right? Is that fridge could be on the back of a lorry, yeah, and crash on its way here, yeah, and cause someone an injury, right? But we don't build that risk factor into that fact that getting to us. But it's really dangerous the way that we do. You know, we all know that traffic accidents are probably one of the biggest killers that we have, yeah. But we all accept that that's how our goods currently move around, yeah. But then if we start doing by drone, and every now and again a fridge drops on someone's head, do we just say, well, that's just part and parcel of the risk that you have with
Part and
drones?
parcel.
I tell you what, Phil, it's a huge opportunity for the insurance industry. But
Yeah.
you know, I just want to go back to this human in the loop thing. I just want to put it out there, right? The human in the loop. My question around the human in the loop is, based on the limited adoption and understanding and intelligence of most workforces around AI and generative AI, right? Who is the human in the loop that basically interacts
authority.
at a point as the authority, right? And how do you work out who they will be? So in an organization with 10,000 employees, maybe it's a huge global law firm or something like that, where it's imperative that information goes out the door absolutely spot on and accurate. Do you say that within a workforce, only those of a certain level are able to use it or are able to validate it? Or do you say everyone can use it, but, you know, my questions are around the governance, and my questions are around, like, who should be using it?
I'm going to add one point to that, which is that there's also the question of who trains it.
Right.
Because currently, most large language models are trained, as we were saying earlier. You know, there's a validation process where you go and you tell it, no, that's not an apple. Yes, that's an apple. Well, the people who are doing that are, for the most part, underpaid workers overseas, and often they're people with no relevant qualifications, because we're training models at basic skills. But once you get into banking and law, you can't really do that anymore. So then the cost of training your model explodes, because you're going to have highly qualified, relatively expensive people coming in and training your model. And it is thousands of human hours to train a model. So
You just made me
there's a
think,
very
Eric, of our
complex
medical
question
game.
there.
Of our medical game and the work we went through in terms of a medical game of you know, having authentic data with which the AI could generate different models.
Yeah.
Just
I've
one
got a
second.
I've got a
Go for it.
response to Jez's challenge, if that's all right.
Go.
And I think this is the problem. I think this comes back to the title we got, generating chaos across our business. Is that, and it comes back to a point that I've made, and I think Nick echoed this, is that what's the problem that you've got, and is AI the solution to that problem? What we're trying to do at the moment is cram AI in, so a future solution into an old way of managing technology workplaces and governing them. And that is the problem. It doesn't really fit within that. So my big challenge, say for instance, at market, if you went down one of the routes you went down, from my experiences, let's get IT to look at whether they how we can use AI around the organization, right? But actually, content generation for LinkedIn updates, perfectly good. Yeah, for doing some posts, right? The marketing team absolutely could be using that to build out some of their creative content. How on earth is AI going to be? They're not the right people to advise on whether the marketing team can go and use that. So actually, you need to look. So it's the marketing team that needs to be doing that, and then it's within the marketing team to look at how we maybe supported by how the tech works by the IT folk, but they should be empowered to be able to make the decisions around who's validating this, who within the team can use it, who we're going to go and train to use it. So if this is why I think it will get chaos in the business, in the sense that we're like a football team where everyone's all chasing the ball all at the same time.
Can I bring
It's
up?
quite
Can
funny.
I?
Can I just
No.
add to that?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
quite funny because in the simulations, we have an AI assistant, right? And it's very clearly called an assistant, and it very clearly states that it's here to assist you in trying to help the team out and stuff like this. And some teams don't recognise that they've got it, and other teams do. But of the teams that do, often what we get are questions like, how do I win the game? How do I get how do I get into the building? How do I crack the code on the door? Or how do I do this? Tell me the answer. Is the questions that we get to it, right? And they get really frustrated when the answer comes back saying, "Or how do I get to this room in the building?" Oh, well, looking at the map, that's located on the second floor. Well, how do I get there? Well, why don't you go into the building, go up the stairwell, and go to the second floor? It's like they get really frustrated that it doesn't give them the exact answer that they're looking for and resolve the problem for them, the silver bullet, let's say. And when we have the coaching sessions afterwards, we talk about having, and Jez said this before, right person, right job, right time. I'll add to that, using the right tools. Yeah. We ask them, what is AI good at now, generative AI or even AI generally? What's it good at, and how can what tasks might we delegate to it? And it's only in that coaching session they suddenly realise, oh, summarising documents, brilliant. So which one of you actually said, can you summarise this document for me? Can you summarise? And they always say that they don't get enough time in planning to ingest all of the information. And they always have discussion around the information. So if we kind of sit down and say, look, we've got this project plan that we need to do, we've got an objective, we've all got lots of different information. Can everyone take a bit of time, use AI, summarize the information they've got, and then come to the meeting and present that information back to us, validate it, come back and present it to us, and then we'll discuss which bits of the information is relevant to our objective. All of a sudden, your planning time, it only needs to be short. Right, and everyone's using AI for the right reason, but we don't get that at the moment. So this is where I'm saying that AI has a position to play in your business and has an advantage to do, and it will change businesses for the future. But right now, it is creating that chaos, and you're being distracted by it.
Well, it's one of those things. There's one of those things that you missed out of that. Right person in the right job at the right time, using the right tools. But it's the last part that's the imperative bit, with the right skills.
Yeah.
I believe that now what's happening, we've got skills development, people that specialize in the ability to be able to use AI, interact with AI, understand the output from AI, and advise businesses on what's good, what's not, and what good looks like, right? So that's just that additional component which is coming, and we're seeing it already. Like, you've got AI officers, you've got AI consultants, you've got AI engineers, like AI ethics officers, right? That's what they're there for. So as always, tools come first. People play with the toy, break the toy, lose the toy, buy lots of different toys that all do the same thing. And then someone comes along and goes, do you want me to show you how to use it properly? And they go, if you
I
use this
think
one like this, it does that, and that
Yeah.
one like that, it does that. Which one's better for your business? Okay, let's go with that. No different to what we've seen in the last 10, 15 years with data.
Can I
But
make
do we
a
need
can I,
fundamentals? Sorry, Toby. Do we
no,
need?
no.
Sorry, Toby. Do we need the? So if we look at the whole gamut of what a medium to large size organization would do, you know, from making widgets to the accounts department, finance, marketing, admin, answering telephones, etc. When we talk about the world of data, we're always talking about data literacy is as important to every area of that business. Yeah. So, you know, everyone knowing it, that's what makes you a data driven business. Actually, conceptually, logically, and intellectually understanding the importance of data and how we use it as an organization is at the same level that we need to be with at a kind of foundational level. People understand, the cat's joined me, AI as well,
I
because really get the breakthroughs. It's like every bit of the business sort of thinking about, can I use AI in this area of the business? Or do you think that's a step too far, Jez?
I think it's about priorities. I think if you work in a business where the output from your company can be disruptive to industry or people's lives, then there's a priority order. So you have someone come in the business who understands that, you know, from an ethics perspective, this is okay. From a compliance perspective, this is okay. These are the people in your business that should be able to use it quite safely, and it's governed. So that team over there in marketing can do X, Y, Z. It's signed off by someone that says that content's okay. It's accurate. It doesn't mess around with our brand guidelines, blah, blah, blah. However, over there in legal, there needs to be you know, it could be levels of security around AI from my perspective. So I don't think we have to go. I think it's different, because if you wanting everybody to be data literate, I think is very different to wanting everybody to understand how to use AI properly. Because I don't think everybody in the organization needs to use it. I think they can use it,
Can I
but I don't
throw a
think they have
spanner
to.
in? Can I just build on what you guys are saying there? Because it's something that's kind of a hot topic for me, though. Is like, you know, one of my subject interests is organizational learning, right? And the longer that I spend in it, I feel like it's like organizations that don't learn, okay,
Mm.
fail to adapt, fail to understand them. Right now in the UK in particular, are living through a crisis where the post office has basically said that its technology that it called Horizon was perfect, right? That it sourced from Fujitsu, that it couldn't make any mistakes whatsoever, and has aggressively, for the last 15 years, protected itself in every area that you can imagine, all right, against its own employees, saying that this piece of technology, which is, you know, basically doing finance, is perfect and can't make mistakes. Now that's on a standard old piece of technology that they're going to have to upgrade. What you're talking about is a world that's so different from that. How, if one of our premier loved organizations in the UK, and the post office was, and hopefully can come back to that, one of these amazing brands, how are other organizations going to react to the difficulties that they're going to face in the future, and be ethical and be honest and look after its employees in doing that?
I
I
think
think
you've
it's
got
back to Jez's point around sort of governance and guardrails, because if you don't take that seriously, you're going to have problems like the post office and Horizon on steroids around many organizations,
But
So,
But
and
I'm
that's
going to
one
add
of the
to that.
biggest challenges, I think.
It will end up with
I,
government
I,
regulation.
I
Yeah.
think the risk of making someone actually maybe this is changing the role of what they are, but making how you prefer so someone being an ethics officer or this officer product maybe. I think if you look at the history of humans and even today's world, right, there are many different opinions of what is right and what is wrong, and many different schools of thought across different aspects, whether that be religion, country, ethics and stuff like this. So I think that the role of ethics within the business and when it comes to AI is actually something more of a democracy around getting a diverse and inclusive opinion and understanding and making sure that your ethics framework puts that at the heart of any business decision you make, regardless of whether that be technology, AI, data, or process.
I
Right?
agree with that, mate. But can you imagine how long it's going to take to implement?
I
Right.
think there's
Well,
also two aspects to it, Nick. Right.
go on.
First of all, on the one hand, in a bit, governance is legal. Like you do this, you go to jail. Right?
I
That's
disagree.
one
I said
aspect.
that's
Yeah.
compliance, right? That's
Right.
not
Right.
necessarily
Yeah,
governance.
yeah.
Okay. But the other aspect is norms. Well, I mean, I'm not getting into debate about it, but there is within a company, all right, you'll be fired for gross misconduct if you do these certain things. And certainly you could see within some of the organizations that have screwed up over the years, they've managed to get away with doing that. What you're talking about here, what we're talking about is a simple finance package distributed to post office people. Here you're in a different ball game, and do you really think having an ethics officer is going to solve a corporate problem and its impact? Will
No, but there has to
they
be
not just try
something.
and hide it? Will they try and hide it? Will they?
But that's what happened
They're
in
not a
that
very good
scenario.
ethics officer if they try and hide it, do they? Are they?
Yeah, I mean, like the post office scenario, I find quite, yeah. I mean, it is what it is, right? Just a shocking situation. But I mean, ultimately, you know, these guardrails or regulations will have to be put in place around AI usage
Do you
for
think
sure.
that's coming? Do you
I
think?
definitely think that's coming.
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, like,
yeah,
it's no
yeah.
different to any
yeah.
other regulation around finance and insurance for sure, especially around insurance as well. But yeah, I mean, you've got regulatory requirements on all sides of the fence if you look at that. But what I do see as being different is AI will be across all industries.
Yep.
I think
There's danger in every part.
but this comes back to the point of look, particularly when we talk about generative AI, we're talking about a subset, right? A subset of a science, and therefore it needs to and should be folded under the ethics and governance and frameworks that you have across your business for data. It is a data subject and a computer subject, right? So it needs to be. We need to put in some accelerated pipe fighting processes, procedures, and skills now, but ultimately it should form part of your everyday way of thinking, your everyday way of working. But I think we've gone over that hype and the scary piece of it and how to take from there. I think I'll go back to saying that there are good uses of it, and I think it doesn't mean your business can't experiment, because if you don't experiment, you won't have the ideas of how to take advantage of it on that sort of thing. So. And it's quite funny. I was just saying while we've been on the call, while we've been on the thing, I actually asked AI. I won't brand out. No favoritism here. But asked AI literally like, how can our Eden Smith, our business, use generative AI? And do you know what his number one reason was for using it, or thing for using it?
Go ahead.
Any guesses?
Nope.
To promote creativity and innovation. Generative AI can augment human creativity by promoting divergent thinking and challenging expertise bias. Encourage your team to explore new ideas and solutions using generative AI tools. So even in that, the one reason, the one thing it says that it would be great for is basically inspiring the
It's the
human
thing that
knowledge
we all
that you've
said
got
it
in your
won't do,
business.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's the bit around
No,
augment, which is
Uh,
isn't it? It's
yeah,
bringing
that's the
in.
bit. It's AI is a tool for your users, not a replacement for your employees.
Yeah,
Oh.
but I think you make a good point around. I don't know whether we come across in this podcast as being very negative around AI, because it has huge benefits as well to businesses and organizations. I wouldn't want anybody watching this or listening to it thinking, oh, it's really scary, let's not touch it with the barge pole. It is the future, and understanding how you harness it for the betterment of yourself and of your organization and your business is where success lies. But it's going into that with your eyes wide open around what it can do and what it can't do. But I firmly believe that it can make huge differences to organizations and all aspects of businesses around being more productive, more democratic in a way, more collaborative, more and yes, I would argue, even though we kind of said around the creativity, because if you use it as a tool for inspiring rather than answering, then I think you can really move forward with it.
That's
So
what
can
we're
I,
hoping people will
just one
take
second,
away
guys.
from this,
Just
though,
one.
right?
So
That just
so if you could all, that's because bringing it to an end, guys. We'll just if you could, just picking on what you just said there, could you continue that, and then Nick, and then Eric, if you could, your final thoughts.
yeah. Uh, my view is that if anybody who listens to this, if it just enables people or makes people just stop and think for 10 minutes before rushing into doing stuff with AI, then for me, then the job is done, because we're not saying that it's bad. And I don't think we're saying, what we're doing is outlining that there needs to be some caution around it and just be sensible with it. And I think that's what I think this conversation has outlined, that kind of approach very well. And there's been some really good examples of where things could be a bit of a problem. So, it's only just about being a bit cautious. I think that's the main thing. Well, I agree with you, Phil. I mean, there's so many amazing things that it can do, and it is the future. But let's just be mindful of how we use it. And I think this conversation has outlined that nicely.
I think for me, when we talk about agile working and modern organizations, we promote creativity, we promote communication, collaboration, and we promote experimentation, right? And we said right at the beginning, this at the moment is still an experiment. Don't stop your businesses experimenting. If you look into the amount of prompts that have to go into that, when they get this create Harry Potter in the 1920s gangster movie or something like that, the amount of prompts that go into that and direction that goes into that is actually a hell of a lot of information, and it uses the film's characters to inspire what it's going to look like. So it's already biased in its response to you. Yeah. But being aware of that bias, being aware of how to interact with it, and being aware of its advantages and its flaws will make you make your people in your business better in using it and seeing how you can harvest it in the future for your business. So allow experimentation with caution, and just use it in the right way with the right things at this moment in time.
You, Nick?
I think to sort of put a metaphor to what you guys are describing here, we're now entering the Wild West phase, where there's this magic land of opportunity, but it is utter chaos. It's full of crooks and criminals, so to speak. Not, well, there are some, but that's not, not directly. But it's this situation where what you have to do is you have to dive in, you have to experiment, you have to have fun, but you have to remember that it is still messy, it is still chaotic. So when you're gonna want to do something, something that has a big impact, something that may touch up with laws, and that might have a bit of seriousness to it, you have to also think about, okay, wait, is it okay to use it yet? It probably will be, but is it okay yet? If it isn't, let's do it for fun. Let's experiment. Let's try things. But let's not, build the end product out of it yet. It's sort of that fine line.
Yeah,
I quite fancy being an AI sheriff.
Yeah, exactly.
Get a badge.
Just before you guys go off on one, right? Okay, I'm going to say,
Sheriff of AI.
all right,
This town's only big enough for one model.
yeah, all right. I'm going to say, that's true. I've got a time out, guys. Whoa. I'm going to say thank you very much to our team, to Nick, Phil, Eric, and Jez. I hope that those that have listened have found it an interesting subject. You can see that we are not AI scripted in any shape or form in making this program. What we do promise is to try and bring you interesting and valuable content with each episode. So if you would like to support us, then please press like below. And if you'd like to hear more from us, then please press subscribe. And we look forward to hearing, we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Cheers all.